Toxic Bloodbane here, or in Conqueror's Blade, Toxic Impulse. Now I'm going to go over resources, collection, and warband types for collection of resources. Now I'm going to say four kinds of resources that I'm going to cover in this. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with the equipment resources, as I had already covered that in a video, so I'll go over it briefly. Your equipment resources, which is things that you use to either make or recondition horse and warlord equipment, is things like gold dust, powdered silver, rivets, fasteners, rings, wire, bars, plates, paint and lacquer, and of the such. These go in your inventory and not in your wagon or supply dump. Now, you get these from either doing expeditions, which you will only get the common ones for, or sometimes they are given out as rewards in your loot bags, or as standard rewards from events such as the Great Wall, Unto the Breach, Battle of White Elk, things like that. But most commonly, you will get them from salvaging unwanted equipment. So, for example, if I went over and salvaged my old brimstone, which I have never used and never intend on, then it will have the possibility of giving me the more exotic equipment resources. I'm not going to go over that, as I already did in a different video. Most people buy equipment from one of the either the armorer or the horse seller to salvage. I generally don't do this because I don't go through that much materials, as you can see here. Now, on to your standard resources. Your standard resources, which are used to build unit kits, siege equipment, and for fief quests, you're going to look through here. You have food, which is only used for feeding your troops and fief quests. And then you have your standard materials, such as coarse cotton, oak, and limestone, all that good stuff. These are the base materials used to build your refined materials. So if you go to the refinery overseer, you can see that these refined materials require your raw materials. And you can use any grade to make the uncommon materials. The only difference is how much raw material it takes to make that refined material. Now, you also have exotic materials, which are a chance to get those when you go to a resource node. I'll give you an example of this in a little bit, but I'm in the city, might as well go over everything I can here first. So if you get to the rare materials, it's going to require an exotic material, flax, for your cheap fabric, and a raw material. All of these, you can make cheap fabric with any of the base materials. All it matters is how much of that base material it will take to make one cheap fabric. But your exotic material cost will remain the same. Same with all of these. If you go to your epic materials, same thing, except it does require either a rare raw material or an epic raw material in your exotic resources. Now, your uncommon or exotic resources you can generally get from any of the regions, but your epic exotic materials is usually from a specific region, like mountain cotton, for example, comes from the borderlands. So, if you hover over what you need, generally it will tell you where you can get it from. Once you've made your refined materials, which is the you can go to either the unit weaponsmith, where you can make your unit kits at, and it will tell you which materials you need. So, if I know I'm going to need this, I'm going to go to the refinery and see what I need to make it. But, generally, if you're new and you're watching this tutorial, you're going to be looking at your common or uncommon kits, and you'll see that it requires the uncommon building materials, which you can get simply by just refining any of the base raw materials. Same thing with the artillery craftsman. Look through, and each one will have its different cost requirements. All of them cost silver to make, not bronze, so keep that in mind. There's also a quest for harvesting and doing a fief quest as well. I think that covers everything in here. So, I will go out and I'll show you more about fief quests and gathering. So, you're going to want to go to the watchman to leave the fief. I'm going to get on my horse because it feels like a very long walk. And we'll go to, before I exit, we'll go through the gathering group types that I have generally seen. Now, I generally see one of three gathering group types, or warband groups, and that is either a defender, which usually accompanies min-max collectors, or just a group of collectors in general. Now, I am set up as a hybrid, which means I have one of each kind of peasant and a military unit. Generally go with a hybrid anti-cav shield wall unit, like the spear sergeants. When I was a lower level, I went with the Demesne spearmen. They'll stop most of your rebel cavalry that's going to try and kill you. Players, if they're attacking a collector, generally, unless you have a defender with you, it's going to be a little harder. I bring all the different kinds because the min-max collection group is usually 5 groups of serfs built for collection. The only problem with that is if you do encounter an enemy, you can only bring one of those groups into battle with you. So if you bring one out, you get in a fight and they all die, you can't go to the supply camp and get more units. You might have 5 units of serfs, you can only bring one into battle with you. I use a hybrid because I do a lot of solo collecting, so I can't rely on a defender or just sheer numbers of a group of collectors. So that's my current build. Let's go ahead and go out on the world map. Now, I have a lot of people ask me, Toxic, I don't seem to be able to collect resources. And what the game usually lacks is informing its players of certain things. And the common problem I have with that question is that people are trying to farm at the Imperial logging camp right outside the capital. I don't know if they ever changed it since the last time I was asked this question, but you can only collect from this once in your warlord's playtime. So, and it's usually for a quest to show you that you can leave the fief and go farm. So people will sit here, try and collect, and they can't. You're going to want to go to any of the other resource nodes that is not the Imperial logging camp. So if I go to the coarse cotton field, I'll show you where you can see the exotic resources as well as the standard raw material. You can also get random chunks of stuff from the abandoned stuff out here. Anywhere from equipment, unit kits, to raw materials in unit or equipment materials. You can pretty much get anything out of these, but it's usually something crappy. That does not mean just ignore them. I am, for the sake of me being busy going to this coarse cotton field. Otherwise, I'd be picking them up like little pieces of candy. Now, if you go to the cotton field, you'll see that, for me, this resource node has collection prohibited, which means I will not be able to use my daily yield. I have to use a requisition token. I have plenty, most new players do not. So you might want to go try and find one that is not prohibited from you using. It does not look like any out here again, but this one, it says prohibit or permitted. So I would not have to use a requisition token. I could just use my bronze. When you are just gathering, you have to pay attention to daily yields. If they are not in your house, and they are not an ally of your house or in your alliance, you will get 1 daily yield. An ally will give you 2, and if it belongs to your house, 3. When you use standard gather and you're using your daily yields, you also are taxed by whatever the house set as the tax. When you use your requisition tokens, you only use the requisition tariff, so it will only cost me 1,000 bronze to farm here. The product is the base raw resource, and then you have your exotic resources over here. You will not always get these, but you will always get this, depending on the grade of the resource node. Also usually depends on your chances on getting the exotic materials. So I can go ahead and requisition this, and my group will farm. My soldier group and my hybrid warband will also gather. They're just not very good at it. And if you happen to farm more resources than is available in your wagon, you can always come back to the node and pick it up later in the resource pile. You have to actually come back to the resource node it's at to get it. But it does expire after a while. They won't stay there forever. Now, food nodes are a little different. You will always just get food. There's not a higher quality food. It's just the higher quality food resource nodes, like this is a freehold farm, will give you more food per harvest. But as you go up in the tiers of food resource nodes, it's going to cost you more bronze per food unit than the lower end ones. So, if at all possible, you're going to want to farm from the common farms first, so the rustic farm. If you're just using your daily yields, because it will cost you less bronze per food per harvest. Now, if you're running off from requisition tokens, like I have to here, I'm going to want to go to the highest quality farm possible. It might cost me more money per food, but I will get more food per requisition token. Generally, if I'm using requisition tokens for anything, that means I'm a little more desperate than or in a rush than I would be if I was running around not using them and just using my daily yields. So I'd go in here, requisition, I'll get my food. So when you're requisitioning, you have to consider what I need the most and what's going to give me what I need. Now, I'm going to show you real quick how to replenish your food that your soldiers eat while you're out on the field from the food in your wagon. I didn't know this, they didn't cover it in the tutorial, but down here on the bottom in the middle, there's a little plus sign. You can restock your food from your inventory. Bam. Done. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the quick search for fief quests in your area based on what's in your wagon, and that's this little fief quest search. This does not have an infinite distance, so I am not looking at all the available fief quests in the region, just what's closest to me. I believe within 500 units of measurement for distance. So I can do view details. It'll tell me which ones I have the resources for. I can go to overview, see who owns it. While I'm in here, I'll go over a quick summary of what I would be looking for in fief quests. If my house owns the fief, I would be looking for things that have high building material to upgrade the fief for my house. Upgrading a fief means that it has a better chance of spawning higher level fief quests which have better rewards. If I'm just looking for honor, then I'm going to look for which one gives me the most honor. If I am looking for prestige, so my house can build siege camps, all that good stuff, I'd look for prestige. Generally, if your house doesn't own it and you're prestige farming, you're going to look for food. Because this might be a 3-star quest, give 7 prestige, but if my house doesn't own it, I don't get the other rewards. So I can go up to and find one that needs food and 10 prestige. So I'd run around and do food quests. If my house owned it, then I'd get a ton of prestige. But prestige isn't that important anymore. It's for sieges, and that's pretty much it. You also have some places have boxes of kits. Some places have skill pages. It just depends on the fief. Just look at the fief quest, decide what you need, and from that, farm accordingly. There's another kind of resource, which I never personally farm, which is horses. And the reason I don't personally farm them is because it costs less to just replenish your troops' horses in here than it does to try to farm the horses for your unit kits. Or not your unit kits and horses are separate. But for your units, it costs less bronze to just replenish them with just your bronze. But if I need horses for a fief quest, I most certainly will farm them. So the basics is, before I get on to that, I almost forgot, you can also just click on the fief on the world map and go into overview and look at the fief quests there too. So if it's outside of that 500 measurement range, you can always just look around at the fief quests from the world map. Anyways, back on to what I was about to say. As a short review, I went over resources, kinds of resources, what they're used for, kinds of warbands for collection, that be defenders, which is just military, hybrids, which is a mix, so you're somewhat combat capable, and the min-maxes, which are usually just serfs that are resource gather builds that just going to farm a lot at once. Um, and fief quests. And to top it all off, in case you don't know, you can go into your unit tree, which is going to bring up the barracks, and there's this weird thing on the end, technology, which every time you farm a resource will give you collection XP. And you can increase your yield for those resources by researching them on this tree. I don't think I have enough XP to actually research one right now because I already did for the most part, but it will increase how much you get from farming those resource nodes. And I think that's it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day and have fun out there. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.